Imagine this. You're staring at a to-do list, and it's so long it feels like it's actually mocking you.
Right.
Your inbox is just this relentless flood. Your calendar looks like a battlefield, and the only thing that seems to be growing is your anxiety. You're exhausted. You're struggling to focus, and that feeling of being, I don't know, out of sorts, that's just become your normal. You want to be productive. You really do. You want to feel in control, but every single impulse is just to stop. Does that sound familiar at all?
Oh, absolutely. It's a scenario just so many of us find ourselves in, isn't it? That pervasive feeling of being completely swamped by all the demands on our time, our energy. It truly is a universal challenge in this, hyper-connected, really fast-paced world we live in.
Yeah, that deep, almost visceral feeling of being overwhelmed, where your mind just kind of grinds to a halt. We've all been there, I think. And it takes such a toll mentally and, well, physically, too.
It really does.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Our mission with this deep dive is really to unearth some practical, maybe even surprising insights, and definitely actionable steps to help you, our listener, take back control of your time, reclaim your focus, and just significantly reduce that crushing feeling of overwhelm.
And we'll be pulling from a multifaceted approach here, drawing on insights into building really robust daily routines, fortifying your mental and emotional well-being, and also implementing some highly effective task management techniques.
Right.
Because, ultimately, this isn't just about getting more done, is it? It's about enabling you to live with more clarity, purpose, and passion. It's really about reducing that chronic stress that takes such a toll on your overall well-being, allowing you to not just survive, but to actually thrive.
Okay, so let's start by maybe nailing down what we mean by overwhelm, because it feels like so much more than just being busy, right? But what exactly are we defining it as here?
That's a really crucial distinction to make. Overwhelm, as we're looking at it, it's that feeling of being completely overrun by emotions. It's when you've exhausted all your usual coping strategies, right? And you just feel utterly incapable of managing the problems, the emotions, the obligations piling up around you. The absolute core of it is losing that crucial sense of control.
Losing control.
It's not just, oh, I have a lot to do. It's a profound mental state where the sheer volume or maybe the complexity of your commitments just paralyzes action. You have this mountain of tasks, but your brain feels like it's frozen, like it can't even take that first tiny step.
And that just leads to more stress, I imagine.
Exactly. It leads to this vicious cycle of inaction, which then leads to guilt and then even more stress. It just feeds itself.
So if that's what it is, fundamentally, what are the real root causes? What gets us into this state? Because sometimes it feels like it just creeps up on you out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, it can feel that way. But often it stems from having just too many demands on your time and energy, plain and simple. Think about Jill. There's a case study from one of our sources, and her experience is just incredibly relatable for so many people. She's working 12-hour days, right?
Yeah.
Barely seeing her son, feeling immense guilt about it. Then her 11-year-old is nagging her about a sleepover she promised ages ago. It's Mother's Day weekend, and she hasn't even thought about buying a gift.
No.
Her mother-in-law is blowing up her phone about some family gathering she absolutely does not want to attend. And then, to top it all off, her boss springs this last-minute business trip on her, gives her 48 hours notice.
That's just intense.
It's not just a busy week, you see. It's a perfect storm, an unmanageable number of tasks, obligations, these unexpected stressors that just keep coming relentlessly. You can almost feel the weight of that just hearing it described, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely draining. You can really feel the emotional burden in that scenario. And it's not always just your own stuff piling up, is it? I've heard about how absorbing other people's problems can be a really significant contributor.
Precisely. That's a significant and often quite insidious contributor to emotional overload and overwhelm. It happens when you start feeling responsible for fixing other people's issues, or maybe absorbing their feelings as if they were your own.
Right, like taking it all on.
Exactly. It's like empathy taken to an unhealthy extreme. You become kind of inundated by stressors that aren't inherently yours to carry, adding to your already stretched mental and emotional capacity. It's like trying to bail out a sinking ship when you're already sitting in a leaky rowboat yourself. This emotional burden is often silent. You don't always notice you're doing it, but it's incredibly heavy.
And that links pretty directly, I imagine, to the whole people-pleasing trap. That feels like a huge one for so many of us who find it just incredibly difficult to say no.
It truly is. That difficulty in saying no or, establishing clear boundaries, it often comes from this deep-seated fear. Fear of criticism, maybe fear of rejection, or just fear of making people angry or disappointed.
Yeah, you don't want to let people down.
Right. And when you're constantly concerned about pleasing others, about maintaining the status quo, you inevitably end up neglecting your own needs and priorities. Just think about always agreeing to that extra project at work, or that last-minute favor for a friend, or attending social events you'd really rather skip.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of those yeses to someone else can inadvertently be a no to your own well-being. And it's another step deeper into overwhelm. This kind of self-neglect directly contributes to that mile-long to-do list and the feeling of being stressed and just utterly depleted because you've signed on for far more than is realistically possible or, frankly, healthy for you.
So it's not just the sheer amount of stuff we take on, but also maybe how we approach or perhaps don't approach structure in our lives.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to feeling out of sorts when my usual routine gets completely thrown off.
Exactly. A disruption to your normal rhythm, or maybe even a complete absence of a structured plan, it leaves you feeling precisely that, out of sorts. It's like being adrift without a compass, You struggle to focus, you're constantly fighting decision fatigue, just deciding what to do next takes energy, and you're often just plain tired because your brain is constantly expending energy trying to figure out the next move. This lack of an inherent framework leads to inefficiency, and that just adds more stress. When life lacks that predictable pace, you struggle to decide even basic things like when should I work out, what should I eat, even what should I wear, because you lack that established flow that makes those decisions feel effortless.
Okay, so given all these different causes, too many demands, absorbing other stuff, people-pleasing, lack of structure, what are the real consequences if we let this unchecked overwhelm just build up? This feels like it's more than just having a bad day. It sounds like it could be fundamentally eroding our well-being.
Oh, it's far more profound than just feeling a bit stressed, absolutely. Unchecked overwhelm has serious kind of cascading repercussions across multiple parts of your life. On the mental health front, for example, you see a significant increase in stress levels, poor mood regulation, heightened anxiety. And then there's the potential for what's called analysis paralysis, that debilitating state where you're so overwhelmed by the sheer volume of options or possibilities that you just can't make any decision.
Right, you just freeze.
You're stuck in neutral, even with the engine running, right? Because the perceived weight of all the choices just outweighs your capacity to act. You might also find yourself overreacting, or sometimes, conversely, underreacting to situations. You lose that calm, measured response.
And it impacts the physical body too, right? It's not just all in your head. The body keeps the score, as they say.
No, not at all. Physically, chronic stress from sustained overwhelm significantly increases your risk for serious health issues. We're talking things like heart disease, primarily due to the constant activation of your body's fight or flight response.
Wow.
It also profoundly impacts the quality of your sleep. Even if you think you're getting enough hours in bed, the quality suffers, leading to general exhaustion and even a weakened immune system over time. Your body is constantly in this heightened state of alert, which is simply unsustainable and, frankly, deeply damaging in the long run.
And then, of course, your ability to actually do things effectively, to be productive or even creative, that just goes completely down the drain when you're in that state.
Precisely. Productivity and creativity suffer immensely. You experience a reduced ability to focus, which directly leads to making more errors in your work, which means tasks often need to be redone, further compounding the problem. Right?
Yeah, adds more to the list.
Exactly. And there's a significant drop in creativity because your brain is just too occupied with managing the perceived crisis to engage in innovative thinking or, divergent thought. It's a fundamental erosion of our capacity to function optimally, to truly solve problems, and ultimately to enjoy our lives.
Okay, so if overwhelm erodes our capacity to function, the natural next step seems to be building back that capacity. And it sounds like a really great place to start is with routines. It seems so deceptively simple, but is there a real power to just having a daily rhythm?
Absolutely. I'd say underrated power of positive daily routines is that they are truly foundational tools for healthy living. They foster positive habits by allowing beneficial behaviors to become automatic, almost running on autopilot, you could say.
Autopilot. I like that.
Yeah. And this frees up immense mental energy that would otherwise be spent on constant decision-making. Think about it. If you always have to decide when to work out or what to eat for lunch, that consumes mental bandwidth.
Right.
But if regularly attending, say, a yoga class or picking up fresh vegetables each evening becomes part of your established flow, those actions become pretty much effortless. This allows you to reserve that precious mental energy for the more complex or novel tasks that truly require your focus.
I love that idea of freeing up mental energy. It's like
Yeah.
automating your good intentions almost.
That's a great way to put it.
So what do these foundational routines actually look like in practice? Maybe let's start with the morning, setting the tone for the whole day.
Yeah, morning routines are absolutely critical for promoting a positive headspace and energy. They allow you to face your day with intention and structure. One key element for many people is simply waking up a bit early. And it's not just about tacking on more hours to the day. Early risers often report improvements in their mental health and productivity. It allows you to function at your highest, as one source put it, before the daily chaos really kicks in. That quiet time can be truly transformative for some.
And then fueling the body, I assume, getting some energy in.
Exactly. Having breakfast is often called the most important meal of the day for a reason. It provides essential physical energy. It helps clear that brain fog by stabilizing your blood sugar and actually has significant long-term health benefits like improving heart health and reducing the risk of diabetes. Fueling your body properly right from the start also primes your brain to make better decisions throughout the day. It makes you less susceptible to decision fatigue later on.
Now, I've heard about the make your bed rule. It sounds so trivial, honestly, like something my mom used to nag me about. Does it actually do anything significant for adult overwhelm?
It might seem insignificant, I get that, but making your bed is actually a small act that can deliver a disproportionately large psychological payoff.
Really?
Yeah, it's the first tangible win of your day, a visible sign of control and accomplishment right off the bat. This simple act helps jumpstart productivity by allowing you to complete the very first task on your mental list, setting a tidy tone and a sense of momentum for the rest of your day. It creates this little positive feedback loop that helps chip away at the bigger mountain of tasks you know are coming. It's a surprisingly powerful psychological anchor.
Okay, I might try that then. What about the internal work? Can a morning routine help with things like self-doubt or those negative thought spirals that can sneak in before the day even truly begins?
Absolutely. Setting affirmations for the day is a really powerful practice to combat exactly that. We all grapple with self-doubt and insecurity sometimes, right? But by consciously stating or writing positive affirmations, things like, I can finish all my work well today, or maybe I'm worthy of respect, love, and compassion, you actively reframe your self-perception. You highlight your talents and capabilities. It's essentially a mental exercise in self-compassion and building inner strength.
And for those who are brave, and I have to admit, I sometimes fall into the not brave enough category here. There's even the cold shower idea.
Indeed. Taking a cold shower isn't for everyone, definitely not. But for some people, it's incredibly energizing, like that first jolt of coffee in the morning. And science actually backs this up to some extent. Showers under about 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 Celsius can boost endorphins, improve circulation, and even kickstart your metabolism. Surprisingly, some studies even suggest they might help stave off colds or the flu by activating your immune system. It's a definite jolt to the system, that's for sure, but it can significantly increase alertness and mental resilience. It acts as a kind of quick stress antidote for some.
Okay, so mornings are about setting intention, building momentum. What about the evenings? How do we effectively wind down from all that intention and productivity, especially when our brains are often still buzzing from the day?
Yes, evening routines. They're all about preparing for restful, quality sleep, which is absolutely paramount for combating overwhelm long term. The goal is to reduce stress and gently shift your body and mind into a low-energy, relaxed state. Simple activities like doing some light stretching before bed can make a surprisingly big difference. It releases muscle tension built up during the day, improves blood flow, and aids physical recovery from the day's strains. This makes it easier to sleep comfortably, especially if you, say, suffer from muscular pain or stiffness from sitting at a desk all day.
And planning for tomorrow, too. I've personally found that getting the next day's tasks out of my head before bed can be a total game changer for my sleep quality. Stops the mind racing.
It's incredibly effective, isn't it? Goal setting for the next day before you go to sleep is a really powerful technique. Just take a few minutes to reflect on what you accomplished today. Identify any opportunities or things left undone. If you didn't finish your to-do list, Okay, now you know exactly which high-priority tasks to tackle first thing tomorrow morning.
Right.
This establishes clear goals, reduces that morning decision fatigue we talked about, and it kind of lets your subconscious mind start working on solutions overnight, which in turn allows you to truly switch off and relax.
And of course, the ever-important sleep hygiene. We hear about it all the time, but what are the key elements that truly make a difference in preparing for quality rest, especially when you're feeling stressed?
Good sleep hygiene is just non-negotiable for quality rest and fighting overwhelm. So after your evening rituals, whatever they are, prepare your actual sleep space. That means things like pulling down blackout curtains to block out all light, stopping the use of phones, tablets, TVs at least an hour before bed. That blue light from screens really can suppress melatonin and keep you awake.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
It is hard. Using earplugs if noise is an issue, maybe applying relaxing scents like lavender to your sheets or body, and setting the room to your ideal sleeping temperature, which is typically cooler for most people. The crucial point here is to avoid any stimulating thoughts or activities that could reactivate your mind right before you intend to sleep. Your bedroom should really be a sanctuary for rest, and ideally, nothing else.
These sound great, these morning and evening routines. But what about those of us whose days are just too unpredictable sometimes for really rigid rituals? Are there any time routines, things we can slot in that can still provide a continuous boost to our well-being and help us manage overwhelm on the fly?
Absolutely. That's a great point. Not all beneficial routines have to fit into a rigid schedule. There are many powerful activities you can sort of squeeze in whenever they best fit your day or whenever you feel you need them. For instance, journaling is a fantastic anytime routine. It can significantly reduce stress and anxiety just by providing an outlet for your thoughts. You can use it to flesh out frustration, maybe interrogate your feelings about the day's events, explore insecurities in a safe, judgment-free space. It really helps you understand yourself better, maybe recognize behavioral or emotional patterns, and think through complex problems without just getting stuck in rumination.
And physical activity, too. Even if it's not a set gym time every day, I find even just a short walk can totally reset my brain when I'm feeling stuck.
Exactly. Exercise, really in any form, improves cardiovascular health, boosts your mood by releasing those feel-good endorphins, strengthens memory, builds muscle mass. The list goes on. But it's not just about long-term physical health. Even a brisk 10-minute walk has been shown to immediately reduce circulating stress hormones and trigger endorphin release. It acts as a kind of rapid-fire antidote to that feeling of being completely swamped. So whether it's a quick walk during a break, maybe some yoga stretches between meetings, or even team sports for that social connection, fitting it in where you can still yield tremendous positive results.
Staying hydrated seems like such an obvious one, but it's honestly one of the first things to go when I get busy. How does something as simple as drinking water connect to feeling overwhelmed?
It truly is essential and easily overlooked. Proper hydration, aiming for around, say, 3 to 4 liters a day for most adults, although it varies, ensures nutrients and oxygen get transported to your cells, helps flush waste, lubricates joints. But beyond that, even mild dehydration can lead to brain fog, fatigue, and difficulty concentrating. And all of those things make you more susceptible to feeling overwhelmed. Simple things like setting reminders on your phone or just having a large water bottle handy can help you consistently sip water throughout the day, keeping your mind sharper.
And for the mind itself, what about using downtime like commutes or waiting times for learning, transforming passive time into something productive?
Oh, absolutely. Reading or listening to podcasts like this one, perhaps, can absolutely transform commutes, lunch breaks, even time spent doing chores into valuable self-directed learning time. You can level up professional skills, learn about self-care strategies like the ones we're discussing, or simply enjoy inspiring stories that shift your perspective. This keeps your brain active, stimulates curiosity, and some research even links lifelong learning to preventing cognitive decline like Alzheimer's and dementia. It's about consciously feeding your mind productively, rather than just letting it spin or default to scrolling.
Gratitude is another one I hear about a lot. That powerful mindset shift, right? Shifting your perspective can be incredibly effective against those negative spirals that fuel overwhelm.
Yes, practicing gratitude, consciously noting or stating what you're thankful for each day has really profound effects. Studies show it can genuinely make you happier, help combat depressive symptoms, and even improve your immune health, likely by literally rewiring your brain pathways towards positivity over time.
Wow.
It's a simple yet incredibly powerful mental reframe. It pulls you out of that deficit mindset, focusing on what's wrong or lacking, and into one of abundance, making the feeling of overwhelm seem, well, less insurmountable.
And finally, something fundamental, a basic human need that often gets sacrificed when we're feeling completely swamped, connecting with other people.
Socializing, yes. It builds resilience, provides a crucial support system where you can offload burdens and gain perspective, and it increases empathy and self-esteem. Plus, it's also just plain enjoyable.
Yeah.
Making time for social contact, whether it's a game night with family, brunch with friends, or even just a quick, meaningful chat with a colleague, even when you feel busy, is absolutely vital for your overall wellness. Humans are fundamentally wired for connection, and isolation only amplifies feelings of stress and overwhelm.
Okay, so beyond routines for our bodies and minds, let's talk about our physical space. Is there a real tangible connection between having a tidy environment and achieving mental clarity? It definitely feels like sometimes my desk is a direct reflection of my overloaded brain.
There's a very strong and actually scientifically supported link there. Untidy environments often increase stress. There are studies, for instance, showing that women who describe their homes as cluttered or somehow unfinished tend to have higher levels of the stress hormone cortisol throughout the day.
Interesting.
So this isn't just about aesthetics. It can be a direct physiological response to visual chaos that constantly demands your attention, even subconsciously. Now, there's a caveat. Some studies suggest disorderly environments might actually foster creativity for some individuals in some contexts. But for most people, most of the time, decluttering promotes better focus, reduces decision fatigue, and generally improves overall well-being. It's really about finding that balance that truly works for you and your unique needs and personality.
So what are the specific, maybe measurable benefits of decluttering? How does it help me fight overwhelm beyond just making my space look nicer?
Well, a tidy space offers several key advantages that directly combat that feeling of overwhelm. First, and perhaps most obviously, better focus. Clutter is a constant visual distraction, making it harder for your brain to filter out irrelevant stimuli and concentrate on the task at hand. When your space is clear, your mind often follows suit, freeing up those cognitive resources.
Okay, makes sense.
Second, higher self-esteem. When you struggle with disorganization, it's easy to feel out of control, maybe even incompetent in that area. Improving your living or working space restores feelings of competency, pride, and mastery over your environment. And that translates to a greater sense of personal agency overall. Third, potentially better relationships. Clutter can sometimes cause friction and conflict with family members or roommates, right? And you might feel uncomfortable or stressed about inviting friends over. A tidy home can reduce these interpersonal tensions and actually open up your social life more.
And beyond the mental and social aspects, there are actual lifestyle and even health benefits too.
Absolutely. An improved lifestyle often becomes far easier to maintain. For example, it's simpler to prepare healthy meals if your kitchen is orderly and accessible. And most people report sleeping better and more deeply in a neat room with a tidy bed connects back to sleep hygiene. Plus, there's a significant physical health bonus. Decluttering helps prevent pests and reduces the accumulation of dust, mold, and mildew, which can trigger or exacerbate allergies and asthma for many people. So yeah, it's truly holistic.
I can already hear the collective groan from listeners, myself included sometimes. Decluttering itself can feel incredibly overwhelming, especially if your space is a reflection of your stressed out brain. What are some low-stress tips to actually get started without triggering more paralysis?
That's a very common and totally understandable hurdle. The key is to make it low stress and actionable. So first, start small, really small. Pick just one drawer, maybe one shelf, or one small cabinet. The positive feedback loop of seeing and actively using that one well-organized space will motivate you to do more. It builds momentum slowly but surely.
Okay, one drawer. I can do one drawer.
Exactly. Second, build in structure and accountability. Schedule a decluttering task just like you would any other important appointment. Maybe invite friends over to create a natural deadline for tidying your living room. Or arrange for someone to pick up unneeded items for donation on a specific date. This creates a concrete deadline. Just remember to allow extra time because decluttering often takes longer than we expect.
Good tip.
Finally, and this is crucial, don't strive for perfection. You don't need to hide every single frequently used item away. Convenience often outweighs pure aesthetics. And please avoid comparing your space to others, especially those perfectly curated images online. It's about making progress towards a functional, calm space for you, not achieving some unattainable ideal from a magazine.
It really sounds like the difficulties people have with decluttering kind of mirror some of the broader issues we discussed earlier with overwhelm itself then, like time management, perfectionism.
They absolutely do, and it's a fascinating connection. People who consistently struggle with clutter often exhibit characteristics that directly feed into overwhelm. They might struggle with time management, have perfectionist tendencies that make it hard to start or finish unless it's perfect. They might be easily sidetracked by distractions. Maybe they tend to be people pleasers who accumulate things out of obligation or guilt, and they might be prone to procrastination. It becomes this cyclical relationship where these traits contribute to both physical and mental clutter, which then amplifies the overall feeling of being overwhelmed. Tackling one often helps the other.
Okay, so we've laid a strong foundation now with routines and decluttering our physical and mental spaces. Now let's go on the strategic offense. Because even with a clearer mind and space, that seemingly endless to-do list still looms large, doesn't it? It feels like there's never enough time to do everything you have to do, where every single item feels crucially important.
That's the universal problem, isn't it? When everything is labeled urgent and important, then nothing truly is. And it often leads directly to what we mentioned earlier, analysis paralysis. That debilitating feeling of being completely stuck, unable to move forward simply because you don't know where to even begin. Your brain is just overwhelmed by the sheer number of options or tasks, and it freezes up.
Our sources introduce a really helpful framework for understanding where overwhelm truly hits us, often referred to as the GVS levels of pressure: global, vague, and specific. Can you break those down for us?
Yeah, this framework is great for clarifying precisely where you're getting stuck. So, global pressure is when you feel completely overwhelmed by everything on your plate, the full, crushing breadth of all your tasks and obligations combined. This is where most people get totally zapped, as one source put it, and feel utterly paralyzed, unable to act.
Okay, the big picture swamp.
Exactly. Then there's vague pressure. This is where you kind of know the elements of your tasks, like, you need to do household chores or finish that report, but you lack ultra-crispy clarity on the specific steps involved or their sequencing. This lack of clarity becomes a huge showstopper because your brain still has to do the work of figuring out the how before you can even start.
Right, it's fuzzy.
It's fuzzy. Finally, there's specific pressure. This is the goal. This is when your tasks are clearly defined, broken down into manageable steps, and basically ready to go. You might still struggle with the execution itself due to procrastination or distraction, but the struggle isn't in knowing what to do. It's simply in doing it. We want to get everything to this level.
Okay, so the key then is to strategically move ourselves from that global and vague pressure state into specific pressure. How do we actually do that? What are the actionable steps involved?
It typically involves a 3-step process for really clarifying your work. Step 1 is the brain dump. This is absolutely fundamental. You need to get literally everything out of your head and onto paper or into a digital list. Everything.
Everything.
Everything. This acts as a massive mental decluttering. It's like offloading your brain's RAM onto an external drive. It provides a clear, objective view of everything that's currently demanding your attention. Think about consolidating tasks from all those different places they hide your head. Slack messages, random sticky notes, flagged emails, calendar invites, even those thoughts that pop into your head while you're in the shower. Get them all into one central, visible location. There are even tools now that can help automate pulling tasks from various apps into one spot, giving you that single source of truth.
That makes so much sense. Just get it all out there so you can see it. But then what about those massive, really intimidating projects that just look like insurmountable mountains on the list? The redesign the entire website kind of task.
Right. That's where step 2 comes in. Define each task into a usable assignment. This means taking those big, daunting projects and breaking them down into smaller, highly manageable, and really concrete chunks. The goal is to make each task so clear, so specific, that you know exactly what the very next physical action is.
The next physical action.
Exactly. So instead of redesign website, it becomes something like find 5 example websites for inspiration, or maybe write outline for new homepage content, or draft email to web developer. This step directly combats that natural human tendency we have to underestimate how long present tasks will take and overestimate our future capacity, because now you're dealing with bite-sized, actionable steps that don't feel nearly as overwhelming.
And the final step before actually diving into the work, which I can already see, helps reduce that initial friction.
Step 3. Prepare your work environment, or what some productivity experts like to call your battle station. Before you even plan to start a specific task, ensure you have all the necessary materials, tools, documents, websites, whatever resources you need, ready and open. This eliminates all that fiddling around, searching for files, logging into things, or getting sidetracked by minor preparatory tasks. It allows you to immediately focus your energy on the task itself the moment you sit down to do it. Without this clarity and preparation stage, you're far more likely to just remain stuck in that vague pressure realm where you know you have things to do, but there's no clear, frictionless path to actually doing them.
Okay, so once we have these crispy tasks, as you call them, they're clearly defined, the environment's ready, how do we decide which ones to tackle first? This is where all those prioritization techniques come in, right? And honestly, it feels like there's so many different methods out there. It can be confusing.
Exactly. And finding the right technique is a personal journey. There's no one-size-fits-all. But the common thread across all the effective methods is making informed, conscious decisions about what truly matters most right now and what aligns best with your overarching goals. One really popular and incredibly effective method, especially if you struggle with procrastination, is the 10-minute rule. Or sometimes people call it baby steps. You pick a high-priority task, maybe one you've been avoiding, and you commit to working on it for just 10 minutes. That's it. Then you stop, and you do a quick self-check.
Just 10 minutes. That seems almost too simple to make a real dent in a huge pile of tasks. How does that work psychologically to overcome overwhelm?
It is simple, and that's precisely why it works so powerfully. It's a very, very low commitment, right? Which instantly makes the beast, that big scary task, seem not that scary anymore. It directly addresses that fear-backed procrastination that often paralyzes us when a task feels too big, too complex, or just too unpleasant. The beauty is, once you actually start, that initial inertia is overcome. If the task turns out to be short, hey, you might even finish it in those 10 minutes or shortly after. If it's complex, well, you've at least scratched the surface, maybe gained some clarity for the next time you work on it. But crucially, you get a feeling of accomplishment, even from just those 10 minutes. And there's a surprisingly high chance you'll just keep working beyond the 10 minutes because that initial resistance, that biggest hurdle, has been overcome. We've seen so many anecdotes for people to say, wow, this actually worked. It turns daunting lists into manageable ones, one tiny baby step at a time.
That's really powerful, breaking down that psychological barrier. What if you need more a daily North Star for your priorities? Something that ensures you're always moving the needle on your biggest, most important goals, not just fighting fires.
Then the most important task, MIT method, is excellent for that. Each morning, you consciously commit to picking just one of the 3 MITs, most important tasks that absolutely must be done that day. The key is ensuring at least one of those MITs is directly related to your larger long-term goals.
Okay.
This method ensures you make consistent daily progress on what's truly important for moving forward, without feeling the overwhelming need to tackle an entire sprawling list every single day. It creates a really focused intention for your day.
And there's a classic, almost deceptively simple method called the Ivy Lee method too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Sounds old school, but effective.
Yes. The Ivy Lee method is remarkably simple, yet profoundly effective. It was developed over a century ago by a productivity consultant for Charles Schwab, but it's still incredibly relevant today. The process is this. At the end of each workday, you list the 6 most important tasks you need to accomplish tomorrow. Just 6. Then you order them by genuine priority, 1 through 6. The next day, you start working on task number 1, and you work only on task number 1 until it's 100% complete. Then you move to number 2, work only on that until it's done, and so on down the list. You don't jump around. If you don't finish all 6, the unfinished ones can move to the next day's list. This simple approach forces singular focus and provides a crystal clear stopping point for your planning each day. It eliminates that constant, okay, what should I do next? Problem.
For those of us who maybe like a more visual or analytical approach, there's the priority matrix, which is famously associated with President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah.
How does that one work?
Yeah, the Eisenhower matrix, or priority matrix, is a fantastic tool for categorization and decision making. You plot your tasks based on 2 axes: urgency on the horizontal x-axis and importance on the vertical y-axis. This creates 4 distinct quadrants.
Okay, 4 boxes.
4 boxes. Tasks that are important and urgent, top right quadrant, are your top priorities. You do them immediately. Tasks that are important and not urgent, top left, are strategic things you schedule for later. Decide when to do them. Tasks that are urgent and not important, bottom right, are often distractions. These are the ones you typically try to delegate to someone else as possible. And finally, tasks that are not urgent and not important, bottom left, these you just eliminate altogether. Why are we even doing this?
Right, get rid of them.
Exactly. Imagine applying this to your email inbox, right? An important and urgent email might be a critical client emergency. An important and not urgent could be planning next quarter's strategy session. An urgent and not important might be a meeting invitation that you don't really need to attend, but perhaps someone on your team does. And not urgent and not important could be junk mail or an irrelevant newsletter you keep meaning to unsubscribe from. You can literally just draw this 2x2 grid on a piece of paper or use an app like TickTick or Todoist that has this built in. It helps you quickly triage your entire workload and make really informed decisions about where your limited energy should truly go.
I've also heard of the Moscow method, which sounds like a fun acronym if nothing else.
The Moscow method is indeed a popular one, often used in project management, especially in software development, but it's perfectly applicable to personal tasks too. It stands for categorizing tasks into must do, should do, could do, and won't do.
Ah, okay. MSCW.
Exactly. The immediate and often surprisingly liberating action here is to look at your won't do list and just delete those tasks entirely. Things that simply aren't going to happen, aren't worth your time, or are no longer relevant. Get them off your list and out of your head. Then you focus intently on completing your musts, followed by your shoulds, and finally, if time and energy permit, you tackle the coulds. It gives you a very clear hierarchy and helps you consciously shed unproductive commitments.
That sounds similar, but maybe with a slightly different emphasis to the ABCDE method. What does that add?
Yes, the ABCDE method, popularized by Brian Tracy, expands on that prioritization concept. A tasks are your absolute must-do, highest priority items, things with serious consequences if not done. B tasks are important, should do, but have only mild consequences if delayed. C tasks are nice to do, but have no real consequences either way. Then it adds two crucial categories for offloading work. D tasks are those you should delegate to someone else who can do them. And E tasks are those you should actively eliminate because they aren't truly worth doing anymore or don't align with your goals at all. It really emphasizes clarifying who should be doing what and what truly isn't worth anyone's precious time, especially yours.
And for those who really want to maximize their effort to get the biggest bang for their buck, so to speak, the Pareto principle comes into play, right? The 80-20 rule.
Exactly. The Pareto principle, that famous 80-20 rule, suggests that in many situations, roughly 80% of your desired impact or results will come from just 20% of your tasks or efforts. The goal here isn't necessarily precision, but the mindset. Identify that crucial 20%, those right tasks that, when you focus on them, will yield outsized effects and concentrate your primary energy there. It's all about working smarter, identifying the true levers of productivity and impact in your work or life, rather than simply working longer or harder on absolutely everything that appears on your list. It requires a bit of strategic discernment up front, asking what are the vital few versus the trivial many, but the payoff and effectiveness can be absolutely huge.
Okay, so we've used one or more of these methods, we've prioritized, we have these clear, crispy tasks lined up. Now, how do we actually ensure they get done? Because like you said, you can have the prettiest, most thoughtfully color-coded list in the world, but if the tasks just sit there, it's still overwhelmed, isn't it?
Absolutely. That plan needs to translate into action. The next critical step is scheduling and execution. Don't just hope things get done or rely solely on your memory or willpower. You need to proactively carve out dedicated time for your prioritized tasks by actually adding them to your calendar.
Putting them in the calendar.
Yes. This is where time blocking comes in, literally putting a specific task, like work on Project X presentation, into a specific time slot on your calendar, say Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. You can even use AI scheduling apps these days or tools like Zapier or IFTTT to automate sending tasks from your digital to-do list directly to your calendar, removing that manual friction point.
So we're literally putting potentially everything in the calendar. Even personal time and downtime. That sounds kind of intense, but also strangely liberating, maybe.
That's precisely the power of calendarizing, as some call it. Putting every possible task, including your personal appointments, exercise time, even buffer time and essential downtime, into a calendar with specific time slots can reduce a huge amount of mental stress and decision fatigue. Why? Because it makes all tasks feel equally important. In a way, they each have their designated space. It helps you manage follow-ups more effectively because you can see when you last worked on something. And crucially, as you said, it ensures you block out and protect that essential downtime, that decompression time, which is so often the first thing sacrificed when we feel overwhelmed. It's about consciously, intentionally allocating your most valuable finite resource, your time.
And what about those really huge multi-day or multi-week projects? Just blocking 1 hour doesn't seem enough? Breaking those down seems vital so they don't just sit there on the calendar feeling overwhelming in a different way?
Definitely. That's key. Breaking big projects into smaller chunks and then spreading those individual steps over time makes them far more manageable and much less daunting. Instead of seeing one single intimidating mountain labeled Finish Annual Report on your calendar for weeks, you see a series of smaller, conquerable hills like Gather Sales Data, Outline Section 1, Draft Intro, Create Charts, etc., spread across several days or weeks. This reduces the mental load significantly and makes consistent progress feel achievable, which combats that paralysis we talked about earlier.
And life happens, right? Things always pop up unexpectedly, last-minute requests, urgent calls, things take longer than planned. How do we account for the inevitable unexpected without completely derailing our carefully planned schedule and feeling stressed all over again?
That's why you absolutely must build in buffers or overflow time. You have to acknowledge that plans will inevitably shift. Life is dynamic, not static. Proactively allocate, say, 2 to 4 overflow time blocks, whether they're 25-minute Pomodoros, which we'll talk about, or just general 30-minute slots into your daily or weekly schedule. These are specifically for unexpected tasks, for learning new things that pop up and require attention, or simply for tasks that inevitably take longer than you estimated. This proactively reduces the stress that comes from overscheduling and provides essential flexibility when the inevitable happens. It's about building resilience right into your schedule.
Finally, this whole process, brain dumping, prioritizing, scheduling it, isn't a one-and-done deal, is it?
Yeah.
It's not like you prioritize once on Monday and you're automatically good for the entire week or month.
No, not at all. It's a continuous, iterative process. You absolutely must revisit and adjust your task list and calendar regularly, daily or weekly, depending on your workflow. Tasks change importance. New requests arise constantly. Old ones might become obsolete or less critical. You need to regularly ask yourself questions like, have any of these tasks become more or less important since I last looked? Can I realistically postpone, delegate, or maybe even drop anything from this list now? Has anything else changed in my broader priorities or my available capacity? Making these small, consistent adjustments helps you stay focused on what matters most right now, even as the inevitable shifts happen around you. It's all about dynamic management, not rigid, static planning.
Okay, we've talked a lot about managing tasks and managing our time. But a huge part of feeling overwhelmed, maybe the biggest part for some, comes from how our minds operate, particularly in this world that constantly bombards us with distractions. So, let's tackle the myth of multitasking and talk about the profound power of single tasking. We've all been told culturally that multitasking is the way to go, right? A sign of efficiency, being able to juggle everything.
It's such a common misconception, and it's been deeply ingrained in our work culture especially. But, neuroscience insight tells us something very different and very clear. The human brain cannot effectively perform 2 or more complex cognitive tasks simultaneously. What we perceive as multitasking is actually just rapid task switching.
Task switching.
Yeah. Your brain is literally moving its focus back and forth from one task to another, pausing, reorienting itself, processing the new context, and then attempting to move back. It's a deeply efficient process neurologically.
So we're not actually doing 2 things at once. We're just quickly jumping between them, losing time and focus with each jump. What's the real consequence of all that jumping and context switching?
The consequences are really significant and quite costly, actually. Task switching leads to a dramatic increase in errors, a substantial loss of time. Some studies suggest productivity can drop by up to 40%, and a significant drop in creativity and deep thinking because your brain isn't being given the continuous, uninterrupted space it needs for that kind of work.
40%.
Yeah, it's huge. And even those seemingly minor self-inflicted distractions, those quick glances at email, scrolling social media for just a second, they add up tremendously. Research shows it can take upwards of 20 minutes to regain full, deep concentration after an interruption, whether that interruption was external or self-imposed. It's like trying to juggle, chainsaws and flaming torches while also trying to solve a complex math problem eventually. Something important is going to get dropped, and probably painfully.
That's a very stark image and a really compelling reason to stop trying to do it all at once. So if multitasking is a myth and actually harmful to productivity and focus, what's the empowering alternative? How do we reclaim our focus in this distracting world?
The alternative is embracing the gift of single tasking. Monotasking. When you commit to focusing 100% of your attention on one crispy, clearly defined task at a time, you essentially eliminate that productivity loss caused by the constant switching. And you can truly power through it with far greater efficiency, depth, and quality. As one expert insight put it, focus could potentially be the biggest gift we can give ourselves, our institutions, and our society today. In a world that seems actively designed to fragment our attention, the deliberate act of single tasking feels almost revolutionary. It's not just about getting more done faster, it's about reclaiming your mental sovereignty. It allows for truly innovative thought, deeper problem solving, and frankly, a profound sense of presence and engagement in your work and life. And the great thing is, with practice, single tasking isn't a chore, it becomes intuitive and deeply rewarding.
And beyond how we tackle the tasks themselves, another massive, arguably the most crucial protective shield against overwhelm is setting boundaries. This seems absolutely fundamental for managing all those external demands that constantly creep in and add to our load.
It truly is foundational. Setting effective boundaries is arguably the best, most direct way to regain a sense of control and significantly reduce those insidious feelings of overwhelm and resentment that often accompany it. We can define boundaries simply as creating healthy physical and/or emotional separation between yourself and other people or situations. They act as a vital filter. They prevent you from constantly absorbing others' feelings and problems or feeling perpetually responsible for fixing things that aren't yours to fix, which, as we discussed earlier, is a major root cause of overwhelm for many.
But why is it often so incredibly hard to set them? Logically, we know we probably should, but actually doing it feels incredibly difficult and often triggers feelings of guilt or anxiety.
Yeah, it's tough. Often it comes down to a fundamental fear, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The fear of criticism, the fear of rejection, the fear of making people angry or disappointed.
Don't want to rock the boat.
Exactly. And this leads directly to that people-pleasing behavior where you find yourself prioritizing others' feelings and maintaining harmony, often at the expense of doing what's genuinely right for yourself and your own well-being or capacity. When you don't set clear limits, you continuously, maybe unconsciously, sign on for more than you can realistically handle. And you end up right back with that mile-long to-do list, feeling chronically stressed, resentful, and utterly depleted. It's often a self-inflicted wound driven by fear.
So what do healthy boundaries actually look like in practice? Can you give us some specific, concrete examples beyond just vaguely saying no?
Absolutely. Healthy boundaries involve several key actions that actively create space for yourself. Fundamentally, yes, it's about saying no clearly, kindly, but firmly to things you genuinely don't want to do, don't have the time for, or lack the resources or energy to handle effectively right now. It's also about having the courage to remove yourself from situations that are actively harmful or toxic to your mental and emotional space. It's about proactively communicating your needs, clearly telling others how you want to be treated, and expressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs without excessive apology or justification. A crucial one, linking back to our routines discussion, is prioritizing self-care, making your own physical and mental well-being a non-negotiable part of your schedule, not just an afterthought for when everything else is done.
And recognizing what's actually your responsibility versus someone else's, preventing yourself from constantly swooping in to rescue people or take on their burdens.
Exactly. That's a huge one. It's about recognizing whose problem it truly is, consciously choosing not to try and change, fix, or rescue others from situations they can reasonably handle themselves, or from the natural consequences of their own choices. It also includes protecting your personal space and privacy, ensuring you have sufficient room to breathe, think, and recharge without constant intrusion. And finally, actively pursuing your own goals and interests, not letting others' demands or expectations consistently overshadow your own aspirations or define your identity.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective. It sounds like boundaries are actually less about controlling other people and much more about radical self-preservation and self-respect.
That's the core expert insight right there, perfectly put. Boundaries aren't about controlling other people. They're not about being selfish or mean. They are a healthy, necessary, and even compassionate way of showing others how you want to be treated, and perhaps more importantly, demonstrating how you value and treat yourself. Establishing them helps you feel safe, secure, and more relaxed in your own skin, which in turn allows you to utilize healthy coping skills and respond thoughtfully to challenges, rather than being constantly reactive or paralyzed by external pressures and demands. It's a foundational act of self-care and self-leadership.
Okay, so we've really unpacked why we feel overwhelmed. We've talked about building a robust foundation with routines and tidiness, and we've learned some really strategic ways to tackle our tasks and manage our minds through prioritization and single tasking. Now, how do we put all of this together into a kind of actionable framework? Because honestly, it sounds like a lot to implement all at once, and that itself could start to feel overwhelming.
That's a very fair point. It's definitely a process, not a one-time fix, and it's absolutely something you build over time, piece by piece. Anna Dearmon-Kornick, who's a renowned productivity expert and time management coach, offers an incredibly helpful framework for this. It's based on 5 powerful self-reflection questions. And these questions really bring everything we've discussed today into a cohesive, personal process for systematically tackling and beating overwhelm.
Okay, I like the idea of questions. What's the first question she suggests we ask ourselves when we're feeling swamped?
The very first question is, how did I get here? This is a critical root cause analysis step. It encourages you to step back from the immediate feeling of panic and honestly try to understand the specific triggers, the patterns, the underlying reasons why you're feeling overwhelmed right now. It connects directly back to our discussion in Section 1 about the common causes, too many demands, people-pleasing, lack of structure, etc., helping you pinpoint your personal overwhelm culprits in this specific instance. Because without understanding the why, sustainable change is really difficult.
Right, you got to diagnose before you prescribe. Once we understand the why, what's the next logical step in her framework? Where do we go from there?
The second question immediately shifts your focus towards solutions. What can I do about these things? This deliberately moves your mindset from just identifying the problem to actively creating an actionable plan. It draws on all the strategic task management techniques, the boundary-setting strategies we explored in sections 3 and 4, prompting you to identify concrete, specific steps you can take right now or very soon to address those root causes you just identified. It's about agency.
And getting a clear, unfiltered picture of the current state of affairs, just seeing everything that's actually on your plate. I imagine that's crucial too.
That's question number 3. What is currently on my plate? This is about taking a complete, honest inventory of all your current commitments, big and small, personal and professional. It means doing that thorough brain dump we talked about earlier, and then, crucially, taking the time to rank those projects and tasks by their genuine importance and urgency to you right now. Anna Dearmon-Kornick herself apparently keeps a small whiteboard right next to her desk where she lists her current moving projects and their rankings, just to keep herself in check visually.
Visual reminder.
Yeah, this visual helps filter decisions when everything feels urgent, gives you a tangible sense of what you're actually dealing with, the real scope of it.
Then it sounds like the framework moves into actively managing your capacity, which feels really empowering rather than just being reactive.
Absolutely. Question 4 is, what can I remove or reschedule to create more time for myself? This empowers you to actively manage your capacity rather than just being a passive recipient of endless demands. It directly links to our prioritization techniques, especially elimination and delegation, prompting you to look critically at your list and decide what can be delegated, what can be eliminated entirely, or what can simply be rescheduled for a time when you have more bandwidth. It's about consciously saying no to some things or not now to others in order to say yes to your own well-being and focus.
And finally, the crucial step of protecting that capacity and your well-being for the long term, so you don't just keep ending up back in the same overwhelmed state cycle after cycle.
Exactly. The 5th question, and arguably the most crucial one for sustainable long-term well-being, is what boundaries do I need to set so I don't overwork myself and negatively impact my health and well-being? This is the proactive, preventative step for self-protection that we discussed in Section 4. It reinforces the idea that boundaries aren't optional extras. They are absolutely essential for sustainable peace and productivity. It encourages you to think ahead and build those protective shields around your time, your energy, and your focus before the next wave hits.
That's a brilliant, really holistic framework for self-reflection and taking action. I can see how asking those 5 questions regularly can make a huge difference. Now, let's maybe talk about a specific tool that brings many of these principles, focus, breaking things down, managing time together in a very practical, almost gamified way, the Pomodoro technique. It's so widely discussed, but what makes it so uniquely effective against overwhelm specifically?
The Pomodoro technique. Invented by Francesco Cirillo back in the late 1980s, it's a prime example of a method that is elegantly simple yet profoundly powerful in practice. And it was born directly from Cirillo's own struggle with burnout and overwhelm during his university assignments. He challenged himself apparently to just 10 minutes of focused work using a tomato-shaped kitchen timer, which is where the name Pomodoro comes from, as Pomodoro is Italian for tomato.
A tomato timer started it all. So how does it actually work in practice? It sounds like it's more than just setting a timer for 25 minutes.
It is. The basic structure is elegantly simple. You work with intense focus on a single predefined task for 25 minutes. This 25-minute block is called a Pomodoro. Then you take a mandatory 5-minute short break completely away from the task. After you complete 4 Pomodoros, so about 2 hours of work with breaks, you take a longer, more restorative break, typically 15 to 30 minutes. This simple alternating pattern of focused work bursts, followed by recovery breaks, promotes sustained concentration and helps stave off mental fatigue. It essentially trains your brain for focus.
Okay, 25 on, 5 off, repeat 4 times, then longer break. Why is it so effective? What makes this simple tomato method so powerful against that specific feeling of overwhelm and the procrastination that often comes with it?
Well, it has several key strengths. One of its biggest is that it makes it incredibly easy to just get started. We talked about how procrastination is often linked to our inability or unwillingness to deal with the negative emotions a big, daunting task evokes, right?
Yeah, that feeling of dread.
Exactly. A 25-minute commitment feels far less intimidating, much less emotionally heavy, than facing an entire afternoon of vague, unstructured work on that same task. It shrinks the perceived beast down to what one source called a tiny, unintimidating first step. You're not worrying about the overwhelming final outcome, you just commit to focusing for 25 minutes. And often that's enough to break the inertia and build momentum. You conquer the resistance to starting.
It also sounds like a fantastic way to combat the constant stream of distractions we all face, both the external pings and the internal mental chatter.
It absolutely does. The Pomodoro technique actively combats distractions. We live in a world with a constant stream of emails, chats, notifications, social media pings, all relentlessly demanding our attention. And while technology plays a big role, research suggests that roughly half of all workday distractions are actually self-inflicted. Those internal thoughts like, oh, maybe I should work on this other thing instead, or I'll just check my email real quick. These add up to significant time loss. As we discussed earlier, it can take over 20 minutes to regain full concentration after even a brief interruption. Each Pomodoro session is explicitly dedicated to one task, helping to retrain your brain to resist those impulses and stay focused. And each break is a designated chance to mentally reset and consciously bring your attention back to your intention.
And how does it help us manage our perception of time itself? Because when you're overwhelmed, time can feel very abstract, elusive, and just anxiety-inducing, like it's constantly slipping away from you.
That's a brilliant insight into its psychological power. The Pomodoro technique fundamentally helps you track time in a new way. It transforms time from being this abstract source of anxiety, I don't have enough time, into a concrete unit of effort. We often fall victim to the planning fallacy, consistently underestimating how long tasks will actually take. When you work in these timed sessions, a Pomodoro becomes a measurable, tangible unit of focused effort applied to a single important task. This effectively inverts time, changing your perception. You're no longer focused on lost time or an endless to-do list. Instead, you see a positive representation of accomplishments and intentional effort applied. As the writer Dean Kissick observed, when you work this way with short, fleeting breaks, even mundane activities can become sources of great pleasure because you're being much more intentional and present with your limited time.
And who doesn't love a good game? It also sounds like it kind of gamifies productivity, which can make those daunting tasks feel a bit more approachable, maybe even fun.
It really does. Every single Pomodoro offers an opportunity to improve your focus. It's much more about consistency than achieving perfection, making each 25-minute session a fresh start where you can challenge yourself. You set a mini goal. Complete this Pomodoro without distraction. You challenge yourself to focus. You consciously try to limit distractions. You track your progress. How many Pomodoros did that task take? And then you get instant rewards, those delightful little breaks. You can even challenge yourself like, can I add 1 extra Pomodoro to my focused work today compared to yesterday? Or can I finish this big report within 8 Pomodoros? It makes the entire process feel more engaging and can significantly reduce the mental friction involved in getting started on tough tasks.
Are there any specific rules that Francesco Cirillo outlined to maximize its effectiveness, to really get the most out of this technique beyond just the timing?
Yes, he outlined 3 key rules that are pretty important for maximizing productivity with the technique. First, break down complex projects. If a single task realistically seems like it will take more than, say, 4 Pomodoros, which is about 2 hours of work, then you must divide it into smaller, more actionable steps first. This ensures you feel a sense of clear progress within a reasonable time frame and prevents burnout on marathon tasks. Second, combine small tasks. Conversely, if something takes much less than 1 Pomodoro, less than 25 minutes, batch it together with other simple related tasks. For example, pay rent online, schedule dentist appointment, and reply to that quick email could all potentially be grouped together into one single Pomodoro session.
Yeah.
Batching, exactly. Third, and this is critical for training focus, a Pomodoro must ring, meaning it's an indivisible unit of time. You commit to 25 minutes of pure focus on that one task. No interruptions allowed, no checking emails, no quick social media scrolls during the Pomodoro. If new ideas or requests pop into your head, and they will, just quickly jot them down on a separate sheet to deal with later. If you are unavoidably disrupted by something truly urgent, the rule is you stop the current Pomodoro, take your 5-minute break, and then restart that Pomodoro from scratch. And if you happen to finish a task early within a Pomodoro, use the remaining time for overlearning, reviewing your work, improving related skills, doing some quick research, tidying your notes related to the task.
Those rules seem key to preserving the focus element. What are some quick tips for Pomodoro success for someone listening right now who wants to implement this, maybe starting tomorrow?
Okay, quick tips for success. First, plan out your Pomodoros in advance, at least roughly. At the start of your workday, or maybe the night before, look at your prioritized tasks and estimate how many Pomodoros each one might take. Then schedule them into your day. If you find you have more than about 12 to 14 Pomodoros planned for a standard 8-hour workday, that's likely overscheduling, and you should probably look at postponing the least urgent ones to maintain realism and avoid burnout.
And those essential buffers we talked about earlier, they're still important even when using Pomodoros.
Absolutely. You still need that flexibility. As we discussed, build in maybe 2 to 4 overflow Pomodoros into your daily plan. These are specifically for those unexpected tasks that inevitably crop up, for learning something new that demands immediate attention, or simply for tasks that take longer than your initial estimate, which happens. It's much less stressful to end the day with a bit of buffer time to spare than to constantly feel behind schedule due to optimistic overscheduling.
Also, experiment with the length of your Pomodoros and breaks. While 255 is the standard starting point, some types of deep work might actually benefit from longer focused sessions, like maybe 50 minutes of work followed by a 10 or 15-minute break. Conversely, if you're feeling highly resistant to starting a task, try a really short 5 or 10-minute micro Pomodoro just to break the ice. The sweet spot for most people seems to be somewhere between 25-50 minutes of focused work, followed by 5 15-minute breaks. Find what works best for your attention span and energy levels.
And the breaks themselves, they need to be strategic too, right? To maximize their restorative power and not just become another source of distraction.
Very much so. The advice is generally to get away from screens during your breaks, especially the short 5-minute ones. If your work is primarily on a computer, don't just switch over to scrolling your phone during the break. Stand up, move your body, stretch, maybe step outside for some fresh air, grab a healthy snack or drink, or even do a quick, unrelated chore like loading the dishwasher. This gives both your eyes and your brain a much-needed break from the cognitive load of your work task.
Good point.
Finally, use a dedicated Pomodoro timer or app for accountability. There are tons of them available, many are free. Using a dedicated tool can help customize session lengths, provide clear audio or visual cues for starting and stopping, and some can even block you from accessing distracting websites or apps during your Pomodoro sessions, which is incredibly helpful for building that focus muscle, especially at the beginning.
This sounds like a truly comprehensive system, bringing together so many of the threads we've discussed. It feels like it's not just about managing tasks, but really about building a more resilient, intentional, and ultimately calmer approach to daily life. It's a journey, isn't it? From feeling constantly swamped and reactive to being intentionally in control.
That's the ultimate goal, exactly. And it's absolutely attainable for anyone willing to put in the effort. Establishing these healthy routines, adopting these strategic task management systems, fortifying your mindset with boundaries and focused work. Yes, it takes consistent effort and initiative, especially at first. But it's about building lasting resilience, not just searching for temporary fixes or hacks. We're not meant to be robots running 24/7. We are more like, as one source beautifully put it, sponges that need to soak stuff up, work, and then evaporate, decompress to maintain equilibrium.
I like that sponge analogy.
Yeah. The aim is to cultivate a deep sense of what another source called comfortable confidence. That feeling that comes from having a finite list of clear assignments or intentions for your day, knowing you have a plan, which then allows for the genuine enjoyment of your downtime 100% guilt-free.
That phrase, comfortable confidence, really resonates. It highlights that this whole journey, from overwhelm to control, is fundamentally about learning to respond thoughtfully to life's inevitable demands, rather than just constantly reacting to them, and building the capacity to truly bounce back stronger after every challenge or setback.
Exactly. It's all about empowering yourself to navigate life's complexities, which aren't going away with a deeper sense of capability, clarity, focus, and ultimately inner peace.
So as you, our listener, reflect on this deep dive today, maybe consider this. If you could implement just one new boundary this week, or embrace just one new element of a routine, or apply just one prioritization technique consistently, what would that single step be? And just take a moment to imagine how that small, intentional choice might begin to ripple out, transforming your feeling of overwhelm into a growing sense of calm control. What's the smallest, most actionable step you can take today, right now, to begin building that resilience?
We truly hope this deep dive helps you feel empowered to move from feeling perpetually swamped to feeling more in command, one intentional step and one focused moment at a time. The journey to a more productive, peaceful, and purposeful life is always worth the effort, and it really does start now with that first small step.